Okay, so there are cut. Hi there guys, my name's Tom with Do It To It. Welcome to my channel. This is my first video, and today I'm going to show you how to change a battery in a wristwatch. Okay, so the first thing I like to do is to unhook the band. So I'm going to do it by the clasp here. Make sure that spring bar doesn't go flying across the room. You'd like to make sure you set that aside. And doing that makes the access to the back a whole lot easier. Otherwise, you're going to be working with the band in your way. You're going to have to keep the band from flopping over while you're trying to change the darn battery. And there are a lot of parts in the watch that you can mess up just by touching it with the wrong tool. Okay. So the first thing that I like to do, regardless of the type of back on the watch, is I like to clean around the case back. So most watches will have a back that is removable, so you can get to the battery in the back. So I like to take a toothpick. You don't want to take anything metal, anything that'll scratch it. And go around the edge just to break loose some of that dirt, or wrist cheese as I like to call it. So moving on, so there are a couple different styles of backs. As you can see between these two, you have the screw back type. It has the 6 cutouts that use a tool to open up. I prefer those. Just my 2 cents. And then you have the simple snap back that you're going to need a case knife to open. So I'm going to start with this one here. There's no band on this one, so I should be able to grab it just fine to open it. What you're looking for when you go to open a pop back style like this is a little indent. You'll see an indent along the edge of the case. It may be carved into the actual case of the watch itself, or it may be in the back plate. So I don't see one on this model. So I'm going to take my best guess, which is normally on the side opposite from the stem, or up here by the case corner. So I'm going to try it here, since I've seen some scratches from someone who had the watch before. See what I mean? Yep. There we go. Hear that pop? That's how you know you got the case back open. So I'm not actually going to change this battery. I just want an example for a pop back style. I'm going to be changing the battery in this Citizen screwback watch. So I've already loosened this, luckily. And again, you can see where somebody has seriously messed up this back before. I'm gonna hopefully be able to polish that out when I go to fix this watch up nice. So this is a lithium battery. It is protected and held in by that metal retainer. And this is where you don't want to go poking around unless you know what you're doing. Now, fortunately, I'm comfortable around watches. I work in a local mom and pop jewelry store, so I kind of sort of know what I'm doing. Now, take all my advice with a grain of salt, but from what I can see, there's a tab right in here. Let me see if you guys can see that. There's a tab that you can push in lift up. And slowly pry that out. You don't want to be forceful with anything in a watch. So see, we got that retaining clip taken off and the whole battery just pops out. Take two. Alright guys, so when you open up your watch, there's a couple things that you want to look for. You want to inspect the gasket that goes around the edge of the case. That gasket is responsible for keeping the water out if you ever get water on it or when you're washing your hands, and hopefully you're not taking a old watch swimming unless you know it's waterproof, and they don't even make waterproof watches nowadays. So we'll come back to that gasket later. We're gonna have to do something to it before we put it back in. So we got the battery out now, and I just want to point something out that I have been told time and time again. That copper coil, you do not want to touch that. Even if you nick it, you could break one of those extremely fine threads of copper, and if you do that, your watch will not run. You will break that connection, and it doesn't matter if you put a new battery in, that watch won't tick again. So now that we got the battery out, we just have to separate it from the retaining clip. So I'm just going to take my tweezers here, slowly work that battery out. Okay, so this is a CR 2016. Luckily I have one of those on hand. But let's test this real quick and see if the battery is good or not. So being a button cell battery, it is in the red. That will not do. It does not have enough charge to make the hands tick over. So we are going to set that aside and get one of these bad boys out of here, if I can pick them up. So I got the battery back in the retaining clip here, and I have to put it back the way that I found it. So let's see. We have that blown out. We have our battery. And which way did you go in? Right. Now we're getting closer. I think it went in just like that. So again, I don't want to force anything. I just want to slowly and gently push that tab in until it fits around that plastic retaining ring. Set it down until it clicks and seats. Coming back to the gasket. The gasket is very important. You have to grease it so it does not dry out. So I'm just going to put a little bit of silicone grease around this O-ring. Spread that around, and what that silicone does is it absorbs into the rubber. The rubber is porous, and the silicone helps rejuvenate it, make it more flexible, and it actually expands the rubber, making it fit to seal the watch. So let's see. A guy can hope. I thought it would be running, but nah. Alright, so let's get that put back on here. So we got our O-ring back on the watch back. We got our battery in. And you just have to set the back on there. Make sure that it's seated right and you don't cross thread it. The easiest way to make sure it's not going to cross thread is if you spin it counterclockwise, like you're going to loosen it until you feel it click. That's when the threads, the loosening threads, you get to the top point and then it falls off, seating on both sides into the channel. So then from there you can go ahead and tighten and know that you are not going to cross thread it. Whoops, there we go. Now that gasket wants to pop out. Nothing's just going right for me today. Alright, one more try. Looks pretty straight to me. So the last thing to do is take your spring bar, and if it's in good condition, you can reuse it. And then you have to make sure that you get it all lined up, push it down and slightly in towards that cutout until it clicks into place.